Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm about to make a call to Bill Tufts. Bill and I am going to be discussing the UN Global Compact for Migration. It's been something that Bill Tufts has been talking about for some time, and a couple other people have as well, but it seems to me that he's taken the lead on it, so he's agreed to speak with me, and we're going to go over some of the key problems when it comes to the Compact for Migration and what you need to know. Because a lot of the what is outlined inside the Compact for Migration is going to undermine the sovereignty of a nation, which is why there's been a number of different countries that have pulled out of the compact itself. So I'm about to place the call to him. I hope you all enjoy the conversation and that you learn something from it, and then you know now why we need to oppose the Compact for Migration, because it's really suggesting a lot of things such as higher migration in Canada. It's giving more protective rights to immigrants, which doesn't seem like it's a bad thing to do, but it can actually have larger consequences on how Canada operates. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with Bill Tufts. You profit from fear and hate, hoarding wealth and amassing power. The wolves have been unleashed. We will not submit or cower. It's humanity's darkest side. We are ruled by thieves and liars. Good afternoon, this is Bill here. Hi there, Bill. This is Adrian Lloyd from the JMSO podcast. We were talking a little earlier this week about doing a brief interview about the Compact on Migration.
Oh, yes. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yourself?
Good.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me.
My pleasure.
Well, I want to start off by asking you how and where did you come across this idea for the Compact for Migration? Because, well, I didn't notice it until I started to see you speaking out about it on Twitter, and you seem to take the lead on it where very few other people are speaking about it, especially the media. I've noticed there's been a big blackout on it. So how did you come across it?
Yeah, I ran across it. I speak yearly at a conference in Alberta, and it's about a wide variety of issues, regarding mainly conservative-based issues and people's concerns around government financing and just the operation of governments and what's happening. And several years ago, probably a few years ago, I was out there, and somebody from the land reform movement was talking about a concept that seemed pretty odd to me. It would be what we sort of call a tin hat conspiracy type theory, and they were mentioning Agenda 21. And I thought, man, that sounds pretty far out there when you look at the main issues regarding Agenda 21 and what they're trying to and hoping to achieve. However, when I got back to my regular work was being an advocate on pension issues, reform of pensions, and financial matters. Every once in a while, this little thing would pop up, sort of like one of those whack-a-mole things, stick his head out of the hole, and I'd look at that and I'd say, you know what? That's Agenda 21. And so it started I started to find out more about it. There was a large movement in the United States about a half dozen years ago that was extremely concerned about Agenda 21 and the whole globalist movement. So that's sort of how I got involved with sort of realizing that there was something going on out there.
Yeah, it's I've been hearing a lot about Agenda 21 lately. It's funny because there's the Agenda 21, there's the UN Agenda for 2030, which has been something that has been picked up here in Canada. And I noticed that each one always said that they're non-binding action plans by the United Nations. But this has been something that's been adopted, especially underneath the Trudeau government. He's actually come out with statements talking about how Canada is actively working towards the UN Agenda 2030 and the UN Agenda 21. So it seems like it might be just a crazy conspiracy theory, but it's actually being actively involved. And I've actually called, when it came to the Agenda 2030, I've called it sort of a socialist wet dream for the sort of thing that they want to implement in that. So I understand your concern on that. So when it came down to the Compact for Migration, what do you think is actually the biggest concerns that's inside of the the compact?
Well, the compact is part of Agenda 30. Agenda 30 came out of Agenda 21, and it was started by a famous Canadian out of a Rio summit in, I think it was 1992. The idea for Agenda 21 spun out of that, and then recently they needed an updated action plan to coordinate the whole action of UN globalism. Yes, it's very much so socialistic. The top three leaders in the UN globalist movement today, other than the financier George Soros, are Prime Minister Trudeau, French Prime Minister Macron, and also the General Secretary of the United Nations, who was a hardcore Socialist Party member all of his life and became the President of Portugal. Macron was the Socialist Finance Minister in the last previous French government, and then we all know Trudeau's family love of all things communist. So indeed it is a socialist movement. Agenda 2030 has created 17 specific objectives that they want to achieve. Anything you look at in government today is related to Agenda 2030. Sort of a long story getting back to your migration compact issue, but everything that government does today is controlled by Agenda 30 and those 17 objectives within Agenda 30. So gender equality, affordability. Recently in Ontario, we had most of the municipalities were concentrating on urban transit. That was one of the big issues that came out of the agenda, and they translated into a group of action plans that they called SDGs, which are Sustainable Development Goals. And so I know it's getting complicated, sort of a hard train to follow, and it's taken me a long time to understand all the implications and what's going on, and it's been going on for a long time, ever since 1992. It's been called a conspiracy theory. There's been huge deniability that it exists. However, in the most recent budget, 2018, Agenda 2030 is just mentioned numerous times, and it forms the basis for all of the actions that came out of Canada's federal budget 2018. And it includes many action plans called SDGs, which are the Sustainability Development Goals. So that's the origin of the migration. They have I've just slipped my mind what the name of the migration compact is, but it came out of Agenda 2030 and one of those 17 goals that they want to achieve. We're going to see these things rolled out of Agenda 2030 over the next, however long it takes to get them into place. So the compact on migration was an issue that one of my research associates had highlighted to me. I hadn't paid much attention to it. And I got a call from an MP. It wasn't that long ago that I became aware of it myself. About 3 weeks ago, I got a call from an MP who was asking me about pension reform issues. And just at the end of our conversation, I said to him, hey, give me an update on what's happening with the compact on migration. And he said, what's that? And I was like, okay, here's a member of Parliament of Canada who is completely unaware that this compact even existed or how it was going to impact Canadians. So it sort of went from there.
Well, that's what I've noticed as well, that we've been having very few members of parliament who've been speaking about this. I know Maxime Bernier has, but I found very little when it comes to the Conservatives, virtually none when it comes to the NDP and the Liberal government. I mean, not that I'm expecting much to come out of the Liberal government. Despite the fact they've promised us a transparent government, they've done everything they could to hide their actions. So I can't say I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah, and most of these Agenda 2030 issues, just let my puppy out there. Most of these Agenda 2030 issues have a cone of silence over them. They are what we call third rail issues that politicians can't talk about for fear of reform issues that I was involved with. But I see the whole globalist issue because if you start talking about immigration, all of a sudden you become a xenophobic, racist neo-Nazi. You can't even discuss it. There's no window for discussing it. Either you're a bigoted, racist, xenophobic neo-Nazi, or you're all for open immigration. And so that's sort of where it's led today.
I've been seeing that a little bit as well because immigration has been one of my key issues I've been focusing on. And I actually, just this past weekend before I got in contact with you, I made a post about just about how Americans should just protect their southern border. And I just got a bunch of people that responded to me calling me those names: xenophobic, racism, just for that very idea of trying to defend their borders or at least keep them safe. I wasn't even calling for any violence or anything, but I've been noticing that as well. I've been hearing a little bit about this Overton window, and I've been seeing about how it has been limiting the dialogue here in Canada. I was curious though, is what do you think it means for the Canadian elections though with this compact? Because I think I've been seeing a little bit about that where it was saying I didn't find it inside the compact, but it was saying that it could give the possibility for these new immigrants the chance to vote inside of our elections, our federal elections.
That's certainly a number one fear for me. What the compact on migration says, it's a broad spanning rethinking of the whole immigration process. And I'm, pro immigration myself. My wife is a recent immigrant to Canada. I have a grandchild, and his father's an immigrant. So I've always been a strong supporter of immigration through the studies that I've done, mainly in demographics, that show that our social system is not sustainable, and any state's not sustainable without more people coming into the bottom end of the pension or entitlements Ponzi to keep it going and keep it afloat. So I've always been pro-immigration. However, the economic realities have changed for immigration, and the concept of open-door immigration, just to allow everybody in, regardless of where they're from, like our recent arrival of illegal immigrants or irregular immigrants or whatever the political correct term is for calling them, and that's not sustainable long term. Our Canadian economy is flatlined. We have horrible job creation numbers in Canada, and yet we continue to bring increasing numbers of people into Canada without any study or analysis of what professions we need, what areas of labor do we need them in, and to watch the immigration minister of Canada recently did an interview where he wanted to call the Ontario immigration minister a hate monger. And he didn't know his facts. He was calling her on facts at the CBC. Imagine that, the CBC followed up and did this facts investigation and said that the Canadian immigration minister was completely out to lunch on these issues. So they haven't done the base work to understand what's going on. And Trudeau, with huge aspirations for becoming continuing to being one of the globalist messiahs, and his future, ambitions. He's currently working for the United Nations. He's not working for Canada. He's working on behalf of the globalist movement inside the UN. Everything he does, everything he spends is towards that end, and he's certainly not concerned about the interests of Canadians. So that's why the compact on migration is so extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I've been seeing this. That's been one of my biggest concerns when it comes to Trudeau, especially with the fact that he's so desperate to get his seat on the UN Security Council back. He's willing to do just about anything to get there. When it comes to the immigration numbers, it's like I would never call myself anti-immigration either, but I've been very concerned with the numbers that I have been seeing because we've been sitting around 260,000 immigrants every year for some time now, but it's been raising at an astronomical rate ever since Trudeau came into office. Recently, it was saying that Ahmed Hussein ended up saying that the 300,000 is the new normal. They're toying around with even higher at 350 and 400,000. And then what really sort of shocked me was on October 12th, there was an article that came out on CBC that was saying that Canada's population needs to be 100 million by 2100. And considering with everything we were hearing in the Global Compact for migration, I kind of saw a correlation there. There was that, but also a friend of mine had worked on a story over a year ago where he was talking about that there is a plan in place in order to make to make our population to be 100 million. So that just started ringing alarm bells inside of my head as soon as I saw that. And it kind of just reminds me of something that even Stephen Harper said recently, where he said that it's no longer about the left versus right, it's now about patriots versus globalism. And this seems to be very true in this day and age, especially underneath the Trudeau government, is that you're either on the side of Canada or you're on the side of the UN and other countries as well.
Yes, I'm not sure that Harper said that, but Marine Le Pen made that comment in a recent election, and there's certainly a populist tide sweeping over Europe. The media likes to create hysteria and call it some sort of a far-right threat or something like that, but if the majority of people are voting in the middle, suddenly it's not far-right, it's mainstream, and it is a mainstream movement. And there's a huge cleavage in politics, but it's gone from left to right, sort of a paradigm into a globalist nationalist paradigm. And so there's still a lot of right-leaning, conservative-type people who are globalists. And Trudeau was actually the first one in the political process to pick up that the new political fight is about globalism. You can see how hardcore he's been going after these globalist issues. And so the migration compact envisions that there's 245 million people around the world that have to be relocated by 2030. So that's the ultimate goal. The plan for the compact is they have a concept called migration cycle. And as soon as somebody leaves their country of origin, they've entered into the migration cycle. See, it might be a refugee camp somewhere, or it might be landing in another country with the intent to become a refugee, or landing in the United States with the intent to come to Canada across walk across the border. But when you enter into the migration cycle, you become a global citizen. And the compact envisions, I'm sure there's further understandings elsewhere in Agenda 2030 as well, because they all work together. There's an understanding that the global citizens now have the right of any national citizen. And so that's where the extrapolation that Trudeau will be requiring and demanding and wanting, that immigrants in Canada have the right to vote because of the fact that they now have a human right as a global citizen that gives them the same rights as any nationalist within the boundaries of any country. And so that becomes, sort of a hard concept to get around. But when the migration compact is introduced, it also will give the United Nations the sovereignty over globalization or over immigration worldwide, and start to tell countries how many immigrants they're going to be getting and where they're getting those immigrants from. And so that's why just recently there was a huge backlash on that. The EU president, the presidency rests with Austria this year, he stepped away from the Global Compact and said, hey, hold on here. This has the liability. It could eventually just wipe out our country's sovereignty, our ability to make the future for ourselves, hand it over to the UN because they're telling us how many immigrants from where are going to be coming into our country. When that happened, as well, several high profile politicians have said, no, we don't want to get involved with something like that. So that's the huge risk for the migration compact out there. It's going to take sovereignty away from the countries. It's going to tell them how many immigrants they have to take, where those immigrants are coming from, and give anybody coming into your country a human right that's the same as any citizen that's living in their country. And in fact, Trudeau made steps towards introducing that participation in the election process by immigrants in a recent bill that he had passed that was called Bill C-33. Bill C-33 outlined a bunch of duties that the Elections Canada was to perform. One of them was enumerating all permanent residents in Canada to vote, registering youth between 14 and 18 to vote, and add them onto the voter rolls. We've seen in the media that voter cards have been sent out to non-citizen Canadians, and somebody actually got a voter card coming out to their dog. And so that these are some of the things that Trudeau is looking forward to introducing, trying to implement this, concept of this human rights for all global citizens.
Well, the other thing about this too is that there's been so much, I guess I'll say, concern over the 2016 presidential election and this idea that Russia hacked the election. That the Trudeau government has talked about how we need to strengthen our voting rules, but then at the same time they've reduced it so that way you can go back to third-party vouching. You don't need an ID in order to go vote. And the thing that actually really startled and concerned me in the Ontario election that just passed was the fact that they were starting to use electronic ballot counting machines, and these machines can be hacked. It's not the first time that something like this would have happened. So I thought it was sort of speaking from both sides of his mouth. He's saying one thing while doing another thing. And this is actually going back to the compact, is sort of my concern with some of the things that they're saying, is that they're saying that everything they're going to implement won't undermine the sovereignty of a nation. But then at the same time, if they're going to dictate on which immigrants come to our countries, then it's not really going through a merit-based process. You don't get to pick and choose because, I think you said it a little bit earlier, that maybe we have different skills that we require. And the other thing is too, is that kind of did concern me as I was looking through, was it seems like it's also going to undermine the idea of the free press in Canada, because they were full out calling for stopping public funds going to any media outlet that, quote, promotes intolerance, xenophobia, racism, or any other forms of discrimination. But in this day and age, even just being concerned about immigration, these are the sort of things that could actually see public funds stop flowing towards these media outlets. And considering that in the 2018 budget, the Canadian government was actually going to start subsidizing a lot of our media, it seems like now they're just in the pockets of this UN council. Now there's not really much they can do. If they have any sort of criticism of it, they risk having their funds pulled.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hold on one second here.
No problem.
Just the puppy wants to come back here. And yeah, certainly that a concern. Some commentators have spoken about the migration compact as being an M103 on steroids because of those things that you mentioned, the censorship of the press sensitivity training, and we can certainly see the huge umbrella over the Canadian media as they attempt to pander and be politically correct towards the UN goals and initiatives, which are the same as the current government, and put extreme censorship on what people can say or do. So that's alarming as well. I think that's part of the overall total UN control. I think we're at a tipping point in politics right now. I don't know. There was an excellent debate that happened in the Monk debates, and it was Bannon against David Frum, editor of the Atlantic magazine, and Steve Bannon sweeping the world. There's left socialist populism. I think Trudeau got elected as a populist recently. ALMO is his nickname. Obrador in Mexico, he was elected as a left populist president. Macron was elected as a populist government as well. And then there's the ones that they would consider more, not using the media terms of far-right extremists, but more focused on the conservative issues of fiscal responsibility, limited government, and more liberty and freedom for people. Happened in Brazil, and certainly that was a phenomenon. Trump, several of them over in Europe as well, and so I think that's a trend that we're going to see as well. So it's all interesting times politically. I think we're at a tipping point. The UN agenda has been going on for so long, people have not paid attention to it. But if you look at the 2018 federal budget, blatantly, it's based on Agenda 2030 directives and the goals of that Agenda 2030. So we can no longer say, well, gee, it's a tin hat conspiracy theory. It's not. It's right out there blatantly in front of us. And it's a global battle now for the people of the world to decide whether or not they want to retain their national identities and sensibilities, or they want to become globalist serfs. And Trudeau has told Canadians that Canada's dead. It's no longer the way it is. And it is a post-national state. It no longer is an independent nation, but it's part of the new globalist agenda, part of that neo-Marxist socialist agenda that they envision. Canadians are sleeping. They're blissfully unaware that any of this is going on. Politicians refuse to speak about it, so even if they did, it wouldn't get covered in the media. There's been some excellent commentary. Maxime Bernier solidly against it, but of course that would get zero coverage in the media because it's not something that they can talk about. So it's coming in December. There have been a couple of petitions launched on it. There's a petition in the Canadian Parliament that's been gathering about 1,000 signatures a day. I hope that continues on for some time as people become more and more aware of it. In Germany, they launched 4 petitions into the German Parliament, and they refused to even make them public or disclose what those petitions had said because they were worried about the intercultural dialogue that would be created. It's not hate-mongering or fear-mongering as our current government would have us believe, like the Canadian immigration minister said that about the Ontario immigration minister because she wanted to discuss a rebate and all the money of the refugees that they were funding. So that's the sort of thing that's happening. There's another petition as well that was going out to the provincial government to discuss the global migration compact and be aware of it as well. So I hope Canadians wake up. I hope they arise from their slumber and become more aware of this issue. And thanks for your efforts in bringing it to people's attentions. And let's keep the dialogue going.
Absolutely. I think that's the best thing we can do, especially if we don't have the media talking about it, then we need to raise awareness wherever we can. And I think going through these social media platforms is probably the best way. We've seen in the past how it's been effective, such as for Donald Trump's candidacy. He was only getting negative attention in the press, so there was a necessity for him to take to Twitter and raise his followers there. My last question to you is, in your opinion, what do you think we can do to wake Canadians up? Because my fear is that the fact that we live in such a comfortable country and we have for such a long time, my fear is that a lot of Canadians won't take notice to this until it's too late. So in your opinion, what is the best way to sort of wake them up to this problem?
Yeah, I don't know if there is a way or not, or if someday we wake up and look out our window and we're under the jackboot control of socialist totalitarians. I don't think that, if you look at, go back and read 1984, it's an excellent read, and it's incredible how prophetic Orwell was happening and everything that we see happening in government today. Of course, we'll be accused of being far right fear mongers, but let's have a dialogue about it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, and I'm proud to be a Canadian. I'm not interested in being a post-nationalist globalist, and I'm going to do everything I can to bring it to people's attentions. Talk to your MP, talk to your local politicians. I don't think Canadians are aware of just how probably the most strongest movement for globalism is within our municipalities and cities.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. I am very proud to be a Canadian as well, and I don't want to live in a post-national state. Bill, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate this, and this was really informative.
Hey, good stuff, and good luck on your future endeavors.
All right, you as well. Thanks again.
Goodbye.
Bye. That was Bill Tufts, who's been taking the lead on the Global Compact for Migration. That was very informative. I definitely learned a few things. I hope you guys did as well. Please like, subscribe, thumbs up, and leave your comments below. I'd like to hear what you all have to say about the Global Compact for Migration. And in the description, I will have put Bill Tufts' Twitter account, so you can go follow him as well for the latest updates. Have a great day, everyone.